everyone, welcome back to our channel. Before we get started, a very, very warm thank you to all of our patrons on Patreon. You really help the channel out and we really appreciate you. How does Patreon help us? The more support we receive on Patreon, the more time we can devote to making these videos.
If you're someone who regularly watches the channel but you haven't yet donated, haven't become a patron on Patreon, please consider doing so, even if it's just for 1 month. The link is down below. And also for those of you who regularly watch but aren't subscribed, there are quite a few of you, as is common on YouTube. If you wouldn't mind, just please hit that subscribe button. If it's red and it says subscribe, rather than being grayed out and says subscribed, if you can click it, please do so. That's a great, great help to us in the channel.
And don't forget to check out our Etsy store. It's the last year that our Etsy store will be alive.
We did our last video about, the disconnect between most progressives and veganism, because most well-known online progressives are not vegan. And that's weird, because if you're standing up for things like equality, justice, social justice, you're combating things like discrimination, and you want to help the planet and help the future, it's weird for you to support an industry that intentionally breeds living sentient beings into existence just to kill them as babies, just so that we can have 15 minutes of taste pleasure, and then also burns the planet while doing so.
And to be a contributor to that. That's the key. The reason it's so easy to sort of bypass that in the progressive movement is because most people contribute to that and no one wants to acknowledge it. Yeah. It's very easy to say, well, for some people, it's very easy to say, anti-racism, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, workers' rights. But when it comes to something that most people contribute to, no one wants to feel like they're a bad person. It's easy to just kind of look the other way.
One prominent progressive that we have talked about before on our channel is David Pacman of The David Pacman Show. People have called into The David Pacman Show and asked him about veganism, and it's very clear that he's not vegan. He has no interest in going vegan, even though he does promote some products, like AG1 product, which is like a multivitamin powder that you turn into a smoothie. I believe it's a plant-based powder that gives you all of your daily nutrition that you need. That's how they advertise it. It's like 1 scoop and that's all you need.
It's just a scoop of AG1. You're covering everything you would need for the day.
But it's really hard to go vegan, apparently. We have talked before about how the ethics of needlessly killing animals and eating them contradicts with progressive values. But we found this little snippet of David Pacman talking to a doctor about the topic of cholesterol. While we are not a health and fitness channel, we do not focus on veganism as a health diet, because veganism itself is about animal rights.
It's an ethical position.
It's an ethical position against animal exploitation. We just thought there were some very questionable conclusions that David was coming to in this clip. Also in this clip, we wanted to highlight the confusing language that often doctors use, which I think doesn't help people with their health. I think that doctors could do, in general, a better job at using ordinary language to talk to folks about what they should or should not be eating for their particular health issues.
I mean, the doctor's also not vegan, so that could be clouding his judgment a little bit.
Thank you for letting us know what's going on down there. Can I ask you a cardiology question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a definite answer right now on cholesterol from the standpoint of, it used to be that eating cholesterol would raise your blood cholesterol, and then more recently it doesn't. It's carbs that get turned into cholesterol by the body. What is
that?
Whoa.
That blew our minds.
Wow. Okay. See, here's what I think has been going on this whole time. We've been criticizing David Pacman for his inconsistency in terms of his progressive values and veganism. I think also what's happening here is I don't think that David Pacman is nutritionally educated. You eat carbs and carbs get turned into cholesterol. That phrasing is wild. Now, I know most people when they say carbs, they think oh, sugar and candy and cookies
Yeah, and that's why carbs are so demonized.
That's why
because
carbs are bad.
They're turned into the enemy because most people associate carbs with all these junky foods.
Right.
When really carbs are in every plant, in every edible plant, and carbs get turned into glucose.
Yeah.
Glucose. We learn that in biology.
Yes, the human body needs glucose to run on. Your brain needs glucose. Your muscles need glucose. If you were eating carbohydrate and your body was turning it into cholesterol, right here, I mean, I'm not going to pick a vegan website. I just went to heart.org, right? This is the American Heart Association website. Eating foods containing saturated fat and trans fat causes your body to produce more LDL, raising the level of bad cholesterol in your blood. It's such common knowledge at this point that when you eat saturated fat, that raises your LDL cholesterol.
Yeah.
Not carbs.
Not carbs. Otherwise, our cholesterol would
Yeah,
have skyrocketed.
Every
by
vegan's
now.
cholesterol would be through the roof.
I would have asked that question in private.
Yeah.
Because putting it out there, that's what starts confusion,
Yeah.
mass confusion. When you have such a large audience and such a huge platform,
Yeah.
that is borderline irresponsible. I mean, it might be a genuine question he has, but
And maybe it's something he read on the internet or something that he wants to believe, because he does, I feel like he has mentioned like carbs a lot. I think he's carb phobic. If you go, yeah, carbs are a huge problem, and then you go, right, yeah, because if someone eats a lot of broccoli, that's real bad. No, broccoli's high in carbs.
Yeah.
Oatmeal is high in carbs. Beans are high in carbs. Rice is high in carbs. Yeah. He's so confused. Like, he's confused about cholesterol.
We're in an era where no one believes science anymore. People just take it upon themselves to make up their own facts. I don't know if it's a trust issue.
Animals make cholesterol. We make our own cholesterol. Your body naturally produces all the LDL cholesterol you need.
You know where I think maybe there's confusion. You know how things are marketed now, like cholesterol free? Like they market plant products with the
and they say
cholesterol
zero
free,
cholesterol.
Zero cholesterol, and you're like, well, yeah,
of
pistachios are never had cholesterol, but people are looking for that, and so I think by putting it out there like that, people might assume, oh, did pistachios have
did
cholesterol?
they ever have it?
Did they remove it? Did they bake it out?
Almost like the opposite side of that coin is dietary fiber.
Yeah.
Like I hate whenever people use they're like, you need to eat a high fiber diet. You need dietary fiber. What that means is you need to eat plants. Plants have fiber. Animal products have cholesterol. Yes, both categories have other things, but I hate it when, like you were saying, like when we focus on cholesterol, this is a cholesterol-free food, a zero cholesterol food, or this is a high fiber food. Yes, of course, kale is high fiber, oatmeal is high fiber. Like, those are plants. And then these are animal products. They're going to contain cholesterol.
What is the truth on diet and cholesterol right now?
So the short version is the majority of your blood cholesterol is driven by genetics, unfortunately. So if you've got shitty genetics, no matter what you eat, it's going to be lousy.
Right.
You have a marginal...
The majority, we acknowledge that genetics play a part.
Of course they do.
As do epigenetics. They play a part in various aspects of our lives and bodies. But you know what also is genetic? Well, not genetic, but carried down from generation to generation. Tradition, culture, and with that, diet, what you eat, dietary lifestyle, the things that you learned to cook from your parents and grandparents. Those traditions get passed down. So you carry down certain behaviors and continue the pattern of high cholesterol.
I mean, we just looked at the American Heart Association, but if we know, for example, you take a food like oatmeal. I think oatmeal is probably the most advertised as heart-friendly food in the entire grocery store because it's so well known, it's so well proven that eating oatmeal can help lower your LDL cholesterol. So we know that certain foods can help lower your cholesterol. We also know that eating a lot of saturated fat can raise your cholesterol. So we know that food can play with your cholesterol levels. So if we know that certain foods can help and certain foods can hurt, I find it frankly a little irresponsible for a doctor to just say like, well, it's genetic. I mean, largely it's genetics. What are you going to do? Whenever you throw your hands up in the air and just say, what are you going to do? What that does is that just encourages people to just keep doing what they're doing.
Increment to your cholesterol if you eat high saturated fat diet.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't necessarily have to have cholesterol in it, but if you have high meat fats and dairy fats in your diet, you're more likely to have an elevated cholesterol.
Yeah.
Okay, so good. So this doctor actually gave some good advice there. He said if you eat a high saturated fat diet, high meat and dairy fat diet, that's going to elevate your cholesterol. David's response,
Who knows? Who knows if he's absorbing?
Are you taking this in? Are you taking this in, David?
And if you're massively overweight, it messes with your lipids. So if you're talking about the average American who's eating a high carb diet and is 50 pounds overweight, that's probably what's driving their.
So you can see the confusion. You can see the confusion from the doctor. The doctor said, saturated fats raise your cholesterol.
Yeah.
Eating a high meat, fat, dairy fat diet is bad for you. And when you look at most people who eat a high carb diet and they're massively overweight, that's bad.
That's
so
weird because we eat a massively high carb diet.
Yeah, vegans on average are the only group that are within a healthy BMI range. But what I'm confused about is like he just said that eating a high meat fat, high dairy fat diet was bad for your cholesterol. And also people who eat a high carb diet and who are overweight, that's bad for your cholesterol.
So what do you eat?
Yeah,
so you get everything's bad.
Yeah, no meat, no dairy, no saturated fat, no carbs.
That's confusing.
It's confusing to everyday individuals who just want to know what to eat.
Increasing cholesterol, but you can eat your eggs, it won't kill you. But if you've got a genetically high cholesterol, you should be conscious of that and talk to your doctor about statins because there are drugs that can make a big difference.
So eat your eggs, they won't kill you. Just talk to your doctor about getting drugs. Just take some drugs to fix the problem. Because it's not the eggs doing it. It's not the saturated fat in the eggs or the meat or the dairy, which you just said causes your cholesterol to go up.
And even if you had genetically high cholesterol, are eggs going to help?
And what about
so diet
claims
makes a
like
marginal difference?
Diet makes a marginal difference. Marginal.
But he also said you shouldn't eat a lot of meat or dairy because it'll raise your cholesterol. And you can eat your eggs, that's fine, because diet just makes a marginal difference.
Yeah.
And what about
so diet
claims
makes a
like
marginal difference?
oatmeal might reduce cholesterol? And it's always like it might, it's not totally clear.
No. I feel like oatmeal is one of the key foods that's always labeled as being heart healthy, and then it helps you lower your cholesterol. David Pacman started this conversation by saying, I've heard that if you eat carbs, your body turns carbs into cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
I've also heard that oatmeal lowers your cholesterol. Oatmeal is high in carbs. So here's from the Mayo Clinic. Top foods to improve your cholesterol numbers. Number 1 is oatmeal. Oatmeal, oat bran, high fiber foods. Oatmeal has soluble fiber, which reduces your low density lipoprotein, LDL cholesterol, which is known, that's the bad cholesterol.
It says soluble fiber can reduce the absorption of cholesterol into your bloodstream. 5 to 10 grams or more of soluble fiber a day decreases your LDL cholesterol. And 1 serving of a breakfast cereal with oatmeal or oat bran provides 3 to 4 grams of fiber. And then you add fruit to that, even better.
Soluble fiber is also found in such foods as kidney beans, Brussels sprouts, apples, and pears. What do those have in common? They're all plants.
But there's this thing now, like people are like afraid of soluble fiber, especially meat eaters. They're like, but you can't digest fiber. Exactly. That's the point. It cleans you out. Fiber serves a purpose.
Yes. There are other things in plants like protein and fat and carbohydrate and vitamins and minerals. Those serve other functions. But the fiber has a function. One of them is helping you to lower your LDL cholesterol. I just think he's totally confused on this topic. When you put yourself out there as an intellectual and someone who's very intelligent and knowledgeable and very up to date on the most current information, then you say things like this and it exposes you for being completely ignorant on the topic of cholesterol.
Oh, no, it's very clear that the effect is small. So there are a whole bunch of products called plant sterols, naturally occurring plants, and that's why the vegans have much better cholesterol than the rest of us. Oats, and there are some products in the stores where they...
David's reaction, vegans have better cholesterol than the rest of us.
Yeah. Let's just throw that one over there. It doesn't serve me. So let's just toss it over to the side.
So again, the confusion with the doctor here. Diet makes a marginal difference. Eat your eggs, they won't kill you. Cholesterol's genetic, so you should just take statins. Also, vegans have better cholesterol than everyone else.
So many contradictions in one minute that we've watched so far.
Your body turns carbs into cholesterol, but eating carbs lowers your cholesterol. But you can't really do anything about your cholesterol because it's genetic. So you might as well just take a drug. But vegans have better cholesterol than most people.
And vegans eat plants, which are full of carbs. Okay.
Enhance food products with sterols that are naturally occurring in oats, specifically to try and trap cholesterol in your guts so that you poo more of it out rather than absorbing it. It's effective, but it's only marginal. If you imagine the effect that the medication has, it might drop your cholesterol by half. Getting a really strict diet eating sterols might reduce your cholesterol by 1/10 if you're really militant about it. But it's a quality of life question. If it makes you miserable, you may as well eat your eggs and don't worry about that 1 week off your life.
Okay.
Ooh, Doc. You know what'll make you really miserable is later in life when you're having cardiac issues and you're in and out of the hospital and you might have a stroke or a heart attack or develop type 2 diabetes. All those things could really make you miserable. But eating eggs, I know people hold on to food like, maybe it's that people don't want to go to a doctor who's going to make it difficult for them. They want to hear good news about their bad habits. These questions seem to maybe have a reason behind them. Could David Pacman have high cholesterol?
It's possible. Normal cholesterol, they always say that like your normal cholesterol is like 200 and under. That's not healthy cholesterol, it's normal cholesterol. Most Americans eat a diet that is very high in saturated fat. It seems like he's hoping for answers that he wants to hear.
Yeah.
And we understand that because like, wouldn't it be great to hear that like, oh, French fries are good for you. Potato chips are good for you.
Yeah.
Pizza is a health food. It's good for you. If Beyond Burgers and French fries and soda and milkshakes were health foods, that would be great. That would be great, but it's not. In our experience, vegans are the ones who are a little more willing to admit things like that. Like, hey, does bacon taste good? Yes. Is it worth the life of a baby pig? No, it's not. Especially when we have other foods that taste close enough to bacon to where I don't need to kill a pig to get this food just for my personal enjoyment. I don't need to kill a cow to get steak. I don't need to kill a dairy cow to get cheese and milk. Most people, they just wish, they're hoping. God, if it were true. Oh, if it were true, it would be so great.
Well, they'd rather take the statins and mask it. It's a Band-Aid.
Take your medicines and live another year. The medicines have such a big impact that if you really have a serious cholesterol problem, don't get too hung up about the diet, but take your pills.
Dr. Dan, thank you so much. Really
Well, that's the pharmaceutical industry for you. Just take your pills.
Don't get too hung up on diet. Just take your pills.
Ooh.
A thrilling conversation between David Pacman and a doctor, and we wanted to talk about this because you can not only see the visible confusion on David's face, but you can hear the contradictory things that the doctor is telling to David, who's already confused.
Yeah.
And then the doctor is telling him more confusing things.
Yeah.
Like you should avoid meat and dairy because of the fat, but high carb diets cause people to be overweight. And also cholesterol is genetic, so don't worry about it. But also vegans have lower cholesterol than the rest of us. But eat your eggs, I guess, and take your statins. What is David to take away from this conversation?
I guess change nothing about about what I'm doing and go to the pharmacy for some pills. It's really disempowering. It's disempowering.
Yeah.
You would think that a doctor would be a little more confident. And if you want to improve your health, you're going to do everything you can to do that. If you have gone plant-based, if you're a whole food plant-based vegan and you still have high cholesterol, there may be a genetic component in there, and you may need medication, but exhaust the possibilities.
If he sincerely cares about his cholesterol and he's heard that oatmeal helps lower your cholesterol, like, why not eat oatmeal instead of eggs? I don't understand.
Just stuff your face with oatmeal
Yeah,
in the mornings. A little bowl of oatmeal.
Or a big bowl of oatmeal. Who cares? With fruit on it. I think it's carb phobia.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's phobic of carbs.
Many
He's
people
afraid of carbs.
Many people are.
I think it's most people don't understand what a carbohydrate is. Most people, they hear carbs and they think of things like white flour, white sugar, refined, sugary cookies and drinks and sodas and that type of thing. That's what people think when they hear carb. They don't think broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kidney beans, brown rice.
Because that's not what most people eat.
Most people eat like crap and their health suffers. But I guess according to this doctor, it's just genetic. So don't change anything. Why bother? Take your drugs.
Well, that concludes our discussion about that. What do you think? I mean, I know, one of the reasons we don't talk about health on this channel is because, one, like we said, veganism is an ethical position. Also, we know that health is a highly contested subject nowadays. Everyone has an opinion about health. We like to defer to the research, the reliable sources, but needless to say, there will probably be people in the comments who believe that carbs are turned into cholesterol, even though vegans have a carb-heavy diet and have lower cholesterol on average.
That's it for this video, guys. Leave your comments down below. And of course, a huge thank you to all of our Patreon patrons. If you would like to become a Patreon patron, the link is down below. Check out our Etsy store, and until the next time.